Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. We have had another week of by-election action. Apologies, I thought I'd be able to get this out for you on the Friday, but I forgot we were going for a lovely family day out at the zoo, and it was a lovely day out, so I'm happy to have been there. We're now recording this late on Friday evening, and it'll be out for you on the Saturday morning. Also, if you saw my video that I put out at the beginning of the week, the second day of the Conservative Party conference as it happened, I'm not sure any of you did see it actually, so if you are a subscriber, please do make sure you've got the notification bell clicked so you know when a video goes up. But this video, as the results have fallen, is going to serve as a pretty good little sequel to that video. So if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend maybe going and checking that out after you've finished watching this one. And further, if you're interested, once we've finished reviewing and rounding up the by-election results for this week, which we'll get into momentarily, stay on this video, and I'm going to do a little bit of a monologue as to where I think the Conservatives have gone astray in terms of their strategy since Kemi became leader. But without further ado, let us get into these by-election results for this week. As always, we'll go through them in order as they appear on the screen. So the first one, Widcombe and Lincoln Ward, Bath and North East Somerset, is a Lib Dem hold. Not very surprising for Bath and North East Somerset, frankly. The Liberal Democrats did lose around about 12 points off of their vote share, but still very, very comfortable winners, 29% ahead of second place. As you can probably see from all the coloured bars there on the chart, all the other parties were fairly similar in terms of their share of the vote, not too much in it, and the Lib Dems out in front. Very impressive 35% turnout. That's going to be a feature for this week. Keep your eye on that number. If I forget to call any out, just have a look yourself, because again, I mentioned it last week. Look, 35% is not a large turnout, but as far as local council by-elections go, it is a pretty good turnout. So that's something worth keeping an eye on, as we see more people perhaps turning out and getting interested is probably the wrong word, but at least active in politics, which is a good thing. It is a good thing. So next up, Lloyds and Corby Village District for North Northamptonshire County Council. This was a Reform defence. Now straight to the turnout here, that's more what we expect to see from a local council by-election, around the low 20s, mid to low 20%, sometimes even dipping below 20. So this one's more typical of what we're used to seeing. But Reform defence, and they've held, so they seem to have bucked the trend of losing seats that they were defending. Look, I don't know the circumstances of this particular case as to why the Reform councillor has resigned after only being elected in May this year. Look, it may be a health issue, in which case obviously that's perfectly understandable, and for various other reasons it's perfectly understandable. But there have been a number, or there were a number early on, of Reform councillors who won in May. I think they'd probably been told, look, you're just going on the ballot paper so that people in your district have got somebody who's representing Reform to vote for. Don't worry, you're not going to win. It's a Labour safe or it's a Tory safe district. And then obviously they did very, very well in the night, sort of exceeded their own expectations, and they're like, oh, I've actually won. And then they've been like, I can't do the job. Which is a shame for the Reform Party, because I think it makes them look a little bit tin pot. Dare I say, not very professional, and it's a shame. So anyway, I don't know what the case was here, but that has happened a number of times for Reform. But they've won here. Like I say, last week they obviously held in the Isle of Wight as well. So they do appear to have bucked the trend of losing seats they're defending. They got 38.5% of the vote here, increasing by around 2 percentage points. Labour in second on 32.4%. Majority just 6%, but gets Reform over the line. And we mentioned the turnout for that one. Moving on, Redcar and Cleveland Council, Skelton East Ward, and this one is very much the showstopper for the week. Conservatives defending. Turnout again, a very, very healthy 38.3% here. That is getting, well, similar to the first one, I suppose, but it's high for a local council by-election. Reform, having not stood here before, comes straight in at 65.3% of the vote. This is the highest vote share Reform have ever won in a ward or district, and is a stonking win for the Reform Party. Conservatives defending scored 13.9, getting clobbered for 30 points down off the previous vote, and enough to see them relegated into third behind Labour, who themselves lost almost 11 points. They're down to 19%. So a really, really devastating result for the Conservatives there. And spoiler alert for the monologue coming after this section. Kemi's speech to close out the Conservative Party conference clearly hasn't had much of a cut through to the general public, I'm afraid. Look, Reform are doing very, very well up in the northeast where Redcar is. We've seen that it was one of the first areas of the country to start going Reform pretty early on. It was there and sort of across Yorkshire. They were the first areas to really start going. So it's not surprising necessarily to see them do so well, really. But devastating for the Conservatives, like I say. Huge win for Reform in Redcar and Cleveland. Going to almost the opposite end of the country, actually. We're going northeast to southwest. Teenbridge. Apologies for pronunciation to any Devon watchers there. Ken Valley ward, though, again, Conservatives defending. Liberal Democrats here winning pretty comfortably, as you can see, a 27-point margin of victory. They come in and get an 11-point boost on their previous vote share to just over half of the vote. So a very, very strong turnout for the Liberal Democrats there. Speaking of turnout, 31%, again, not the highest we've seen, but not bad for a local council by-election. And again, I'm afraid for the Conservatives, in a seat that they're defending, they are relegated into third place, 9.6% of the vote, with Reform coming in a long way ahead of them in second, 23.1%. So obviously Reform here nowhere close to actually beating the Liberal Democrats, but a long, long way of the Conservatives who were defending. So look, again, just to hammer home the theme, really devastating result for the Conservatives, relegated from first previously to third place. Very, very damaging for them. We'll move on to West Lancashire, the penultimate one for this week. Labour defending up here. Now, there's a local alliance. I think they're called Our West Lancashire Party, who have won here. Obviously, the sort of local alliances kind of throws it out a little bit. Frankly, I don't know what sort of side of the spectrum they're on in terms of politics, these guys, but they've won a 10-point boost for them. It's up to 35.5% of the votes. Turnout again 30%, maybe becoming the new normal, maybe, for these. 11% margin of victory for these locals, or our West Lancashire Party, I should say. Reform here, 24% of the vote. Again, not bad at all. I did think Reform might win because they did win in Lancashire in May, but obviously, yeah, the locals kind of threw me off there. Labour in third, 19%. Tories in fourth, 14%. So similar for Labour here, defending a ward, relegated down to third place. So we're seeing both those two main parties. A theme of a video that I did a few weeks ago, wasn't it, where we spoke about the two main parties being squeezed out. And we're seeing that quite consistently now. Labour and the Tories, even in seats that they're defending, finishing in third place behind two others. Lastly then, Bretforton and Offenham ward, Wykehaven Council. Again, apologies for pronunciation potentially there. So again, Conservatives defending. Reform win. Again, a healthy turnout, 36%. And Reform come in here, standing start up to 43% of the vote. Another theme from a previous video last week, I think it was, saying about how Reform starting to see their vote share consistently up into the 40%. Previously we've seen them kind of mid to high 30s, winning by 5% sort of margins. Well, now we're seeing them post much healthier margins. Obviously, the one in Redcar was massive, but here even 17 points ahead of second place. And again, I'm afraid to say, Conservatives defending, not in second place at the result of this one. So down from first again to third, 20.1% of the vote they get clobbered again. Look at that, 35 points down. That's a huge hit to their vote share in Wykehaven. So down 35 points. The Greens finishing in second, 25.9% of the vote. And it has to be mentioned, honourable mention for Labour, who also got absolutely whacked here, down 25.9 points. Now, I don't think all of that vote went to the Greens. I assume most of it did. But I think with Reform coming in at 43.5 up, Conservatives down 35. I think probably pretty much all the Conservative vote went to Reform, and maybe 10% of the Labour vote went to Reform as well. And the Greens mopped up the other 15% and maybe 10% off the Lib Dems. It's possible. It's not beyond the realms of possibility for the Lib Dems to go over and vote for the Green Party. So look, another big win for Reform, basically. Again, up into those 40%. Again, turnouts up in a number of these wards, which I do think is very, very interesting. And it's good, it's good. It is very, very good if people are who won't vote or don't knows or whatever you want to call them, if they're coming out to vote, that is good. It's good for the democratic process. You should all go out and vote. If you don't listen to this, absolutely go out and vote. Even if you don't want to vote for anybody, just spoil your ballot paper. At least register your protest. If you don't vote at all, you just don't go down as caring, frankly. So it's good. And for reform, like I've said previously, if they can mobilise the won't vote group, which is large, to come out and vote for them, they will win a very, very big landslide majority at a general election. So look, another good night for reform in terms of by-elections, another very, very damaging night for the Conservative in particular this week. And so that's why we're going to go on and speak about the Tories and where I think they've gone wrong since Kemi's been the leader. So when Kemi was elected as the leader of the Tories just under a year ago, early November, um, essentially the message was we need to take time to consider policies. We need to put our heads together and decide what the Conservative Party actually is and what it stands for, was kind of the message. And she followed through on that because they kind of disappeared off the airwaves. She disappeared off the airwaves. You didn't see much of her for the last year. And you didn't hear or see much of the Conservative Party really in general for the last year because they took this sort of approach of going off grid. Now, the the reason for that, the stated reason for that, is that we're grown ups. We're going to be considered and thoughtful and deliberate in how we approach building up from being from losing the general election to how we're going to build back up to being a party of government again. Now, the issue with that strategy is that, and I did say this in the video that I did earlier in the week, so again, do go and watch and let me know what you think. But the country moved on when the Conservative Party did this. Look, we live in an age of social media and instant news and YouTube, or sorry, not YouTube, Instagram Reels and TikToks. People watch things for 30 seconds. They don't have patience. They don't dwell. And unfortunately for the Conservatives, they decided to take this approach at the same time that you had a Reform Party under Nigel Farage that's very, very good at utilising all of those aforementioned media. The short form, the snappy, appealing to that short attention span that we all seem to have these days. And unfortunately, the Conservative Party has been forgotten about. Like I say, the country's moved on. The country wasn't in a position where they were going to say, okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll sit and wait for you for a year while you rediscover yourselves. Something else came along and people have gone after it. And I look, they were in a bad place last year, but I think it was recoverable. And Danny Kruger kind of said this recently when he defected across to Reform. I don't think it is recoverable for them now because of the way they've handled the last 12 months. And Kemi has to own that as the leader. It was her decision to do that, and I think it was fatally flawed. I think the issue, really, I don't know if she thought in her head, oh, well, I've got PMQs, people will see me, or whatever. The peril of opposition in the UK, the way our system works, is that the House of Commons, you don't get the opportunities in there that you do when you're in government, because the government controls the business of the House. So it's all mostly government business, and obviously the opposition I can't remember what the timings are, but they get a certain amount of time each month or each week. I think it's each month, but I can't remember exactly. But essentially your time as an opposition is very, very limited to get seen, get attention that way. So the House of Commons is kind of a write-off. And look, Farage, personally, I think Reform, all of them, but Farage in particular, he gets pelters for not being in the House of Commons enough. His critics and opponents are always saying, oh, he's never in the House of Commons. He's never there representing his constituents. Well, that's because Farage knows if he spent all his time in the House of Commons, he would never, ever be heard from. And for him, it's worse because obviously Kemi does have PMQs and she is the leader of of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition. Farage very much isn't, and he only has 5 MPs, so that he's even more exposed to this sort of facet of our system. But he's very aware if he's not out He's got to go out and generate his own publicity. And that, in my opinion, is what Kemi should have done, frankly. She should have been out there straight out of the gate last November and December doing policy announcements and press conferences and things like that to demand the attention of the press and demand eyes on her and the party. Now, like I say, it's just so happened that they decided to do this going off radar strategy at the exact moment in time that there was another party who was directly challenging them doing exactly that, going out public, big publicity stunts of press conferences and policy announcements, demanding the attention of the press. And Reform have done this absolutely extraordinarily well over the last year, in particular. Think of that. And I know it is very much inspired by the Trumpian. What do they call them? It's not a conference, but you know what I mean. If I say a Trump conference, it's not that, but you know what I mean. The big, it's Hollywood, really. It's glitzy. It's Hollywood. Like I say, it demands attention. Um, and Reform have aped that pretty well, and it's not they're nowhere near as big and glitzy in Hollywood as Trump's are. I mean, we are still British with our upper lip, for goodness sake. Come on. Um, but they are sort of unique to British politics. You haven't really seen what Reform do very much. Um, and just look at that um, Operation Restoring Justice launch they did a month or so ago. Farage on a stage with a massive Union flag draped behind him, and then the photographs in front of the mocked up departures boards of all the destinations that the deportees will be going to. It's just stuff like that. It is a bit gaudy, but it's I keep saying the same phrase, but it really does just demand people's attention, and more importantly, it demands the press's attention, and it gets people talking about you and your policies. And that's what Reform have done, and that's why Reform are so far ahead. They haven't been out in the news for a year, over a year, for 18 months. Well, no, not 18 months, since the election, 14 months. They haven't been out of the news, despite parliamentary wise being a very, very small party. They haven't been out in the news, and their opinion poll ratings have gone up from around about 14% to the low 30s%. They've pretty much doubled, or actually more than doubled, their share of the vote. And what's happened to the Conservatives? Well, it's gone the complete opposite direction, hasn't it? It's gone down about 8 points, I think, under Kemi. And that's because they have become, frankly, irrelevant. Nobody is listening to them. Now, Kemi delivered what was probably her best speech as the leader of the Conservative Party in her closing remarks to the party conference. And the party activists all seemed quite energised by it and happy with it. But I'm afraid nobody's listening. Nobody outside of the party is listening, really. Let me know. Did you watch it? Did you watch the speech? Did you hear anything from it? Let me know. Because I don't think many people did, and certainly not people who don't really follow politics to that great an extent. So they've ceded the stage, basically. They ceded the stage to Reform. Reform have gobbled it up and aren't looking like they're going to surrender it anytime soon either. So look, I think that's where the Tories have gone wrong. In that video I did earlier in the week, I asked you, so you can do it here if you like, to let me know how long you think Kemi's got left, basically, because I do still think it's terminal for her. Are they going to get rid of her after her amnesty ends, which is early November, after her year up or her anniversary as being elected as a leader? Are they going to get rid of her straight away, or are they going to wait until the May local elections? I think May is the cut-off point, frankly. I think it'll be. I think because she did deliver a good speech, the Tories were generally happy with it. I think it will probably be May. I think she saved her job for 6 months basically with that speech. But they're going to get hammered at the local elections and the National Assembly elections next year. They're facing wipeout in Wales. They're facing near wipeout in Scotland. And although Labour are more exposed in the English local councils, they're going to get hammered there as well. So I don't see her surviving past that. I think plans will be afoot after those results to oust her. Let me know what you think. Like I say, but I don't see her going past May. I mean, she might go past May, but I think that election will be what is the final nail in the coffin of her leadership. But look, guys, that's it. That's my thoughts on it all. Do let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. Please do leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the content. It does help the videos get out there and helps the channel greatly. If you got this far into the video and you're not yet a subscriber, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and hitting the notification bell as well. We do these by-election roundup videos once a week. Every week, because there tends to be by-elections every week, and when there's major national elections I'll be covering those as well. We're building up towards the local elections that I just mentioned for May. We'll be starting that coverage in November is the plan. So if you want some of that, please do follow the channel. We are most welcome. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next one.